When I first met Nathaniel Price, I thought I'd found the kind of person who made running a business feel effortless. He was polished, calm, and impossibly organized. The kind of accountant who could spot a missing penny in a pile of 1,000 receipts. My small interior design firm had grown quickly, and handling the finances was never my strength. Nathan came highly recommended, not just as a professional, but as someone trustworthy, loyal, and brilliant. He became more than my accountant. He became my friend. In the early days, we'd work late together, ordering takeout, laughing over spreadsheets and invoices. He'd tell me about his love of sailing, and I'd tell him about the clients who drove me mad with their endless revisions. He was charming in that understated, thoughtful way, the kind of man people instinctively trusted. I did too. I gave him access to everything: payroll, expense accounts, contracts, vendor payments. I even joked once, "If you ever wanted to rob me blind, you could." He smiled and said, "You'd notice before I finished the first transaction." I laughed then. I didn't know that one day he'd test that theory. For nearly 3 years, things ran smoothly. The business thrived. We landed corporate clients, expanded our team, and started working with real estate developers. Money flowed in steadily, and I rarely questioned the numbers Nathan sent me. If anything, I felt proud, like I'd built something solid, dependable, safe. Then, one winter afternoon, a client called, asking about an invoice that didn't match their payment records. "It says we owe you an extra $30,000, she said, "but my bank shows the full amount already cleared weeks ago." I frowned, pulled up my records, and found confusion. The invoice she referenced didn't appear in our main system. It was in a separate folder, marked Archived. Nathan had told me those files were for old projects, closed and settled. I apologized to the client, promised to look into it, and hung up, brushing it off as a bookkeeping error. But that night, something gnawed at me. I opened the financial reports from the past 6 months, something I rarely did anymore, and started comparing invoices to client payments. By midnight, I found 3 inconsistencies. By 2 a.m., I'd found 7. None of them huge, small amounts here and there, moved quietly, in round figures that didn't raise red flags. It was genius, really, invisible unless you were looking directly at it. The next morning, I asked Nathan casually if he could walk me through last quarter's financials. He didn't hesitate. He showed up with his laptop, wearing that usual calm smile. "Everything's solid," he said, scrolling confidently through spreadsheets. I watched him closely. He talked smoothly, hitting every number, every justification. He was flawless. If I hadn't seen what I'd seen the night before, I would have believed him completely. But my gut screamed that something was off. Over the next week, I ran quiet checks. I called vendors directly, confirmed payments, compared bank statements. Patterns emerged. The missing funds always came from accounts Nathan handled personally, and every few weeks, small transfers went to a company I didn't recognize, NJP Consulting Ltd. The initials hit me like a punch. NJP. Nathaniel James Price. I didn't sleep that night. I paced my living room, heart pounding. How long had he been doing this? How much had he taken? More importantly, why? He didn't need money. He drove a modest car, wore normal clothes, lived in a small townhouse. He wasn't flashy. But maybe that was the point. Maybe his modesty was the perfect disguise. I thought about confronting him, but I hesitated. People like Nathan, people who plan things this meticulously, don't crumble under confrontation. They manipulate. They twist facts. They make you doubt your own sanity. I needed proof. Undeniable proof. That's when I decided to hire someone else, a forensic auditor. Her name was Kira Donnelly. Sharp, quiet, efficient. She'd worked on corporate fraud cases before and didn't blink when I told her what I suspected. "You'll have to give me full access to everything," she said. "Bank records, tax filings, emails. And I'll need you to act normal. Don't let him know we're looking." For 2 weeks, I pretended everything was fine. I smiled through meetings, forwarded him new contracts, joked about how numbers give me a headache. Inside, I was unraveling. Every time he emailed me, I wondered if he was laughing at me, the stupid boss who never noticed. Then, one Friday morning, Kira called. Her tone was different, controlled, but with an undercurrent of energy. "We found it," she said, simply. She sent me a detailed report that made my hands tremble. Over 2 years, Nathan had diverted nearly $340,000. Not all at once, but in hundreds of small, calculated transfers. He used shell vendors, fake invoices, and a dummy consulting company that funneled everything into an offshore account under his name. She attached screenshots, transaction logs, even metadata from his spreadsheets showing edits he'd made in the middle of the night. I sat there for a long time, staring at the evidence. The betrayal hit harder than the theft. He'd sat across from me, week after week, smiling, joking, talking about long-term growth, all while siphoning off my trust dollar by dollar. I could have gone straight to the police then, but I wanted something more than justice. I wanted revelation. I wanted him to experience the moment his perfect mask cracked, in front of everyone who thought he was untouchable. So I called the authorities, but not to arrest him quietly. I told them exactly when and where he'd be. Monday morning, 10 a.m., our quarterly review meeting, in his own office. I gave them all of Kira's findings. The investigator, a calm man named Ruiz, said, "If you're sure you want it done that way, we can coordinate, but it'll be public." "I want it to be public," I said. That weekend, I acted normal. I sent Nathan a meeting invite, smiled through small talk. He responded cheerfully, "Looking forward to the big review. Think you'll be proud." Monday came. The office buzzed with quiet energy, staff preparing reports, printers humming, coffee brewing. Nathan was in early, wearing his best gray suit, a silver tie loop catching the light. He looked confident, even smug. "Ready to impress me?" I joked as I walked in. "Always," he said with a grin. We sat in the conference room, the air thick with the faint smell of coffee and paper. He opened his laptop, projecting charts onto the screen. Neat, precise, fabricated perfection. "As you can see, profits are up 10% this quarter," he said smoothly. "Our operating costs are down." The door opened. 2 uniformed officers and investigator Ruiz stepped inside. The room fell silent. Nathan blinked, confused. "Can I help you?" "Mr. Price," Ruiz said evenly, "we have a warrant for your arrest on charges of embezzlement, wire fraud, and falsification of corporate documents." Nathan's composure cracked for the first time. His mouth opened slightly. I think there's been some mistake." Ruiz handed him a folder. "Kira's report, printed and neatly bound. We have documentation tracing funds from this company's accounts directly into your offshore holdings. You'll have the opportunity to explain yourself at the station." My employees, gathered nearby, stared in stunned silence. Nathan turned to me, his face pale. "Elise," he said softly, "tell them this is wrong." I met his eyes. "I would," I said, "if it were." Something in his expression flickered. Confusion, disbelief, maybe even heartbreak. As the officers handcuffed him, I noticed his composure shatter completely. The man who'd always seemed so calm now looked small, trembling. They led him out through the lobby. People whispered, phones buzzed, someone gasped. It was everything I imagined and nothing like it at the same time. When the door closed behind him, I sat down. My hands shook, but my voice didn't. "Let's get back to work," I told the team quietly. "We'll be fine." That afternoon, I called Kira to thank her. She told me the case was airtight. They'd already seized his offshore account and frozen assets tied to the shell companies. "You'll probably recover most of the money," she said. But the truth was, I didn't care about the money anymore. I cared about the truth being seen. News traveled fast. Within days, local media picked up the story. Respected accountant arrested in small business embezzlement case. His mugshot appeared online. The comments were brutal. "Always the quiet ones," one person wrote. How can someone look so normal and still be that crooked? His clients dropped him instantly. His license was suspended. And me? I stayed silent. I didn't need to gloat. Reality was doing it for me. 2 weeks later, I received a letter from him, handwritten, shaky. Elise, I don't expect forgiveness, but I need you to know it started small. I was planning to pay it back. Then it got out of control. You trusted me more than anyone ever has, and I betrayed that. The worst part isn't what I lost. It's knowing you'll never believe a single thing I say again. I'm sorry. Nathaniel. I read it once and tucked it away. Not because I forgave him, but because I wanted to remember that moment. The collapse of a man who thought he'd never get caught. Months passed. The firm recovered. We hired a new accountant, a woman named Sloan, who was meticulous and transparent. She helped rebuild everything Nathan broke. The clients stayed, the staff adapted, and slowly the shadow he'd cast over my business began to fade. But every time I walked past the glass conference room where he'd been arrested, I remembered the look on his face, that mixture of disbelief and fear. And I realized something profound. Betrayal isn't always loud. Sometimes it's quiet, polite, dressed in a suit and tie. Sometimes it shakes your hand while it empties your trust account. And revenge, the kind that really satisfies, doesn't come from anger or screaming. It comes from precision, from truth laid bare under fluorescent lights, from watching the mask fall away, knowing justice didn't just knock, it kicked the door open mid-meeting. In the end, I didn't destroy Nathaniel Price. He destroyed himself. I just turned on the lights so everyone could see it. You've just stepped into her revenge side, where every wound finds its justice, and every silence ends with truth. If her story struck a chord, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Your support keeps these stories alive. Another secret waits in the next video. See how her revenge begins.